They say you're quiet. You say you're observing. They say you're distant. You say you're thinking. They say you don't fit in. You say maybe that's the point. Because when the world moves too fast, the deep thinker walks slowly. When everyone chases noise, the deep thinker listens for silence. And in a society that praises speed, distraction, and conformity, the thinker, the true thinker, walks a road few even recognize, much less choose. You're not lonely. You're different. And different isn't broken. It's rare. You see what others don't. You ask the questions they're too afraid to speak aloud. You don't just want answers. You want truth. And that makes you dangerous to the ordinary, threatening to the shallow, and confusing to the comfortable. But you're not here to blend in. You're here to awaken. There's a hidden tribe scattered across the world. You won't find them in crowds. You won't hear them shouting. You'll find them in the quiet moments, creating, reflecting, building, questioning. They are the architects of ideas, the authors of new visions, the engineers of unseen futures. And if you've ever felt like the outsider, if you've ever looked around and wondered why no one else feels the way you do, you might just be one of them. Deep thinking is not a hobby. It's a burden and a blessing. It doesn't give you peace. It gives you clarity, and clarity costs. It costs comfort. It costs fitting in. It costs surface-level friendships and easy conversations, because once you start thinking deeply, you begin seeing deeply. You see through the games, the false smiles, the illusions of success. You realize how many are asleep at the wheel of their own lives, drifting, consuming, obeying, performing, and it breaks your heart, but it also sharpens your spirit. Edison sat alone for hours on end, burning his fingers on failed experiments that no one believed in. Tesla wandered from lab to street to sketchpad, talking to visions in his mind. Lincoln battled lifelong melancholy, haunted by the weight of a nation he tried to hold together with words and wisdom. These weren't just inventors or leaders, they were deep thinkers. And their solitude wasn't a weakness, it was their forge. See, the world tells you to be loud, to be popular, to be seen, but the deep thinker knows. Power doesn't come from noise. Power comes from depth, from knowing who you are when the world isn't watching, from sitting in a room alone and still choosing growth over comfort, from wrestling with your own thoughts until the truth is too clear to ignore. You're not broken, you're building, and yes, it's heavy. When your mind moves miles while others barely take a step, it can feel like you're carrying the weight of questions too large for anyone else to understand. Why am I here? What does this all mean? Why does everyone seem okay with pretending? But that burden is also your gift, because in those questions lie the seeds of your mission. And deep down, you know. You weren't made to live on autopilot. You don't want shallow conversations. You want soul-level connections. You don't want fast money. You want lasting legacy. You don't want validation. You want vision. That's what separates you. That's what sets you apart. And yes, it might mean you eat alone sometimes. It might mean you leave parties early. It might mean you walk through seasons where no one checks in, no one understands, no one truly gets you. But that silence isn't punishment, it's preparation. Because the deeper the roots, the stronger the tree. And while others are sprouting fast and falling faster, you are becoming unshakable. Brick by brick, thought by thought, you are crafting a mind that cannot be manipulated, a spirit that cannot be tamed. You don't crave the spotlight, you crave alignment. You don't need a crowd, you need a cause. And when your cause becomes clear, the loneliness becomes irrelevant. Because purpose has a voice louder than popularity. It drowns out the ache. It silences the doubt. It turns isolation into ignition. Remember this. Every great mind in history was misunderstood before it was celebrated. They laughed at Galileo. They mocked Einstein. They resisted Mandela. They silenced Hypatia. But the thinker is never here for approval. They're here for truth. And truth is a lonely road at first, but it leads to places no crowd can ever reach.